So, a little backstory. I was 8 at the time, living in a quiet neighborhood in Norway. No violence at all, no gunshots. All in all, a very safe environment apart from a mental home as my next door neighbor. Please bear with me as English is not my first language. I was sitting in the backyard with my mom eating ice cream and playing in the sun like any other kid during the summer. There was this guy living in a mental home next door. Let's name him Peter. He usually never spoke to anyone in the neighborhood until this day. Me and my friends decided it was a good idea to prank the mental home and ring the doorbell and run. I feel bad about it now, but I was 8, so I didn't think about it. After we rang the doorbell a few times, Peter stormed out the door with a baseball bat and a friend of his and chased us into the woods, screaming that he would bash our heads in when he found us. I naturally got scared, but that was nothing compared to what was to come. The next day, he came over to our backyard and told me that my bike was broken and that he could fix it as a makeup present for the earlier night. I didn't know my bike was broken, but I took his word for it. I was naive as a child, so I said yes and smiled. He came back with the bike 2 hours later, and I excitedly started riding my bike everywhere just to discover that he had smeared something on the handles that made my hands burn. I ran home crying, and I didn't tell my mom because I didn't want to get into trouble for pranking him. My mom worked the night shift the next night, so she left at about 10 p.m. At 10:30 p.m., I heard something hit my window, so I looked out the window, and he stood right outside, waving and smiling at me and gesturing something that appeared like smearing something on his hands as I saw him go to the back of the apartment building where the entrance was. I was scared shitless, so I hid behind the couch, not knowing what to do. About 20 minutes into the hiding, the downstairs doorbell rang. Since it was after 8 p.m., you needed to allow someone in with a button on the call system next to the door. When I answered the phone on the door, all I heard was someone breathing. I hung up and ran into my bed and hid under the blanket. My mom was very into saving power, so all the lights were off when I went to sleep before all this. Suddenly, I heard the doorbell to my actual upstairs door. For whatever reason, I thought that he couldn't have made it up because someone would have to let him in. And since everyone knew him, no one would do that. I was not tall enough to see out the peephole, so I asked who it was. A voice said that it was my upstairs neighbor and that he had heard someone trying to enter my apartment through the patio. Scared shitless that someone was in my house, I opened, and there was Peter. I managed to keep my tears in and asked what he wanted. He said that he just wanted to come in and play video games. I told him that my mom didn't let me have visitors after 6, so he had to come back tomorrow. He got upset and told me that it was the least I could do for him since he fixed my bike. I tried to close the door, but he put his foot inside and pushed the door back against me. I couldn't resist because he was much stronger than me. I started screaming for help as loud as I could. He told me to be quiet or something bad would happen to my mom. I didn't listen and screamed louder for what probably was 20 seconds, but felt like an eternity. I was alone with him, and he grabbed my arm and pushed me inside. Suddenly, I saw my actual upstairs neighbor and my downstairs neighbor grab him by the neck and pin him to the ground as they yelled at me to call my mom. I called my mom, and she rushed home. Why I didn't call the cops, I don't know. She called the mental home and explained everything that had happened. The next morning, Peter moved out of the mental home, and 12 years later, I've never seen him again. Weirdly, I actually did not have much trouble sleeping, mainly because I was 8 years old and not really realizing what could have happened. Peter, let's not meet again.